I remember when I was an 8-year-old in 2014 hearing about a blockbuster trade in the NFL. The trade was between the Denver Broncos and the Washington Redskins. This trade included the Broncos trading Clinton Portis, who was going off back-to-back 1,500-yard seasons, to the Redskins in exchange for quarterback Champ Bailey and a second-round pick, which Denver used on running back Taylor Bell. This trade remains as arguably the biggest player-for-player trade in NFL history, and is still one of the most memorable trades almost 12 years later. However, there are not always trades like this in which both teams benefit. Today I want to recount for you the most lopsided trades in sports history. Today, based on the research I have done on bad sports trades, I feel like I have enough knowledge through reading a lot of articles and personally seeing some of my favorite teams involved in questionable trades. This information can help you understand that trades are not worth the excitement because the impact of them is not noticed until a couple years down the line. In my presentation, I will take you through 3 different trades and how lopsided they were for one team and how it changed the fortune for the opposing team. First, we have the Red Sox selling Babe Ruth for a musical, and the curse begins. The deal, according to ESPN, Red Sox owner Harry Fraze sold baseball's greatest player to the Yankees for $100,000 plus a $300,000 loan in 1920. His intention to sell Babe Ruth was to get cash to finance a musical called No No Nanette. Although no one knows exactly the reason what was behind the owner's decision, he had this to say about Babe Ruth. No other club could afford to give the amount the Yankees had paid for him. He continued, and I do not mind saying that I think that I am taking a gamble, but Babe Ruth is undoubtedly the greatest hitter the game has ever seen. He is likewise one of the most selfish and inconsiderate men to ever put on a baseball uniform. So, after that, there was a curse called the Curse of Bambino. This curse was as a result of of the Red Sox inability to win a World Series since the sale of Babe Ruth. This curse was officially broken in 2004 when the Boston Red Sox swept the St. Louis Cardinals to win the World Series. When some Red Sox players were asked about the curse before the Red Sox World Series title, this is what Pedro Martinez, the pitcher, had to say about the curse. Wake up that Bambino and let me face him. I'll drill him in the ass. This goes to show that some of the players actually believe that there was a curse on the team and not just the superstition. Next, we have the Yankees benefiting from the trade. Babe Ruth hit 665 out of his 700 career homers for the Yankees, including 54 in his first season in the Bronx. He led the Yankees to 7 World Series appearances and 4 titles, including being named the greatest dynasty in sports history. Babe Ruth was also one of the first 5 players ever elected into the Baseball Hall of Fame in 1938. Babe Ruth is considered the greatest player in MLB history, and he also rewrote many of baseball's record books. Next up, we have the start of Boston's glory days, this time in the NBA with the Boston Celtics. We have the trade. On June 9, 1980, the Celtics acquired 2/3 of their Big Three in one deal. In a blockbuster trade with the Golden State Warriors, Boston received center Robert Parrish and the number 3 pick in the 1980 draft, which they used to select forward Kevin McHale. In return, the Warriors received the number 1 pick in the draft, which they took Joe Barry Carroll, the center, and the number 13 choice, which they used on guard Ricky Brown. Jackie McMillan, an ESPN sport writer, mentioned that the Celtics' greatness always comes in 3, beginning with these 3 players, and a couple of years ago with Kevin Garnett, Pop Pierce, and Ray Allen. The impact of the Big Three. Parrish and McHale teamed with Larry Bird to form one of the best front lines in NBA history. McHale and Bird were both named on the list of NBA's greatest 50 players, and Boston won 3 championships, reaching 5 NBA finals during their careers in Beantown. All 3 players are also in the Basketball Hall of Fame. In 12 seasons together, they amassed 62,460 points and 30,000 rebounds. The Big Three also had its low points. Many of its players gave it their all on the court, and sometimes even playing when injured when they're not supposed to. Injuries and bad relationships ultimately caused the downfall of the Celtics. Larry Bird once said, The injuries that made it possible for me to put my time in on a daily basis to prepare was frustrating because preparation for me was everything I ever had. Larry Bird endured a host of injuries throughout his career, including a double heel surgery which ultimately led to chronic back problems which forced his retirement. In the 1987 finals, Kevin McHale was warned about risking permanent damage when he played on a broken foot against the Celtics. After that game, he was never ever the same again. The final trade we have involves the #1 overall pick refusing to play for the team that drafted him. Bad times in Baltimore was when #1 pick John Elway refused to play for the Baltimore Colts, which led the Colts to trade him to the rights to Denver in exchange for quarterback Mark Harriman, offensive tackle Chris Sutton, and a first-round pick in the 1984 draft, which ended up being Ron Solt. Hilton played his first 7 seasons and his 13 NFL seasons with the Colts. He was selected 7 Pro Bowls and chosen to 5 All-Pro teams. Herman, a journeyman quarterback, also threw 36 interceptions and 16 touchdowns in his 11-year career, having only played 5 games for the Colts in his first 2 stints with the team. Solt also played in the NFL for 9 seasons, including the first 5 with the Colts. John Elway became a legend in Denver. He had won more games, 140, than any quarterback in NFL history until Peyton Manning broke that record, and led the Broncos to 5 Super Bowl appearances, winning 2. He finished his 16-year career ranked 2nd in passing yardage, 3rd in TD passes, 300, and 1st in fourth-quarter comebacks, 47. In December 2010, John Elway expressed an working as the Broncos' top football executive. After having dinner with Broncos owner Pat Bowlen, he expressed no interest in being a head coach or general manager. John Elway says, "I am not interested in being a head coach, I am not interested in being a general manager, and I don't have that kind of experience to be able to pick up those players day in and day out such." A month later, he was appointed VP of Football Operations. This is ironic because his job is to help build and sign players for the team. This year, they won Super Bowl 50 as an executive and his first as an executive. In conclusion, trades are not always what they seem. Sometimes they can go terribly wrong, which includes the trade with Babe Ruth to the Yankees. The Celtics trade allowed for them to form their Big Three and win 3 championships and build one of the greatest dynasties in NBA history. The John Elway case left the Colts in a bad situation because they thought they had the next big big team, but he refused to play for them, and what could have was but for another team. Looking back at all these trades and comparing them to the trade between the Broncos and the Redskins, is that they are the total opposite of that trade. These trades will be remembered for all the bad reasons and the fact that only one team benefited from it.
All right, Robert, what did you think?
The intro with having the good trade go off first, I actually didn't understand that at first, that it was a good trade, because your immediate transition into talking about the bad trades, I had assumed that I had missed something and that the trade, or the first trade was actually much worse than I had thought. I like that you're able to just stick to the facts and not put in your personal opinions on the various trades about how you felt or anything like that. The one issue that I saw is that you seem to be focusing more on your notes rather than explaining to us, or rather than just telling us. Overall, I felt that you did a very good job, and I can see why each trade basically fell apart. The Babe Ruth one in particular seemed to be more for the owner's benefit rather than the team. And overall, I'd say you did a good job.
All right. I kind of like the attention device talking about the one trade where both teams benefited, and you mentioned that happened when you were a kid, and that's why you were kind of interested in that subject. I like that idea. But I think because you deliver it in kind of a reading way and you're not really talking to us, that it loses some of the emotional impact and it doesn't pull us in quite as effectively as it could. But I thought you had an excellent statement of what your thesis was, a very good justification for talking about this. The preview doesn't lay out exactly what the trades are going to be, but it does talk about what the structure of the speech is going to be, that you're going to look at three particular trades that didn't seem to turn out to be all that equal and where both teams didn't benefit to the same degree. So I understood where you were headed with all of this. It's topically organized, so it's around the three trades, so that's easy to follow. And you use the visuals for the most part for transition. Sometimes I think the language transitions could be a little bit stronger. I thought that you did a good job creating interest in the subject by talking about some of the events that happened subsequent to the trade. So all the championships that the Celtics got, but also the injuries and things that went on there. I thought that was interesting. I could have used a little bit more about, because it doesn't sound to me like Baltimore wanted to make the trade. It was one of those things where they were forced into the trade by Elway's situation, and a lot of people may not remember why it was that Elway was in that position of power, and you kind of left that out of the situation. So I think that that probably needed to be included. There were some nice statistics in the performance of the teams that got the beneficial trades in the long run. I thought that also adds some interest to the speech. On the visuals are basically identifying the players in the trade or the key player in the trade. What I thought you was missing was maybe the comparison. I mean, you say a lot of the comparison, but it just seems like it begs for a table graph here where we say, well, so the Yankees, when they got Babe Ruth, here's what they got. And here's the list of the number of victories that they had, the number of championships that they had, the number of records that they got, and here's what Baltimore got, or not Baltimore, but Boston got. And, 90 years of no championships, $300,000 for a Broadway play, and $100,000 in cash, that kind of thing. It'd be one of those things where you can do that in the contrast very easily because it's a trade, so you've got a clear division of those parts, and I think that would have been a good visualization for each of the sections that you went into. Instead of just showing us the picture of the person, kind of visualize the huge advantage that one side got and the lack of advantage on the other side. So I think that would have strengthened a little bit. I think, for instance, that your speech is well organized, well prepared. The research is pretty solid on it. The thing that I think is problematic is the delivery still. You are reading way too much. You need to talk to us. I know that you probably don't have, one of those outgoing kinds of personalities where people just talk it up and look at folks, but you need to remember that you're giving a speech, you have to perform a little bit, and you're kind of going through the material here, and like if you're having a conversation with your friends, think of it that way sometimes. I'm not sure that I agree with Robert. I understand you keeping yourself out of it a little bit. I understand. I appreciate that. But really, the reason we want to listen to you is because you've got a point of view on this, and I think that you need to get more of yourself into the presentation. So it's like everything you're hitting on the right cylinders, but you're just not quite connecting because of that last delivery issue. And we're going to work on those things. That's what our next assignment's about. All right. Thank you.